So this is chapter 8 of CBSE Reader, Human Health and Diseases. So in this part of the lesson, we'll be studying about all the diseases and about human health. Okay, the immunity is discussed in the second half. So what is health? How do you define health? Right? Health is a state of complete physical,
mental and social well-being.
yes, mental and social well-being.
It
Okay.
makes work for a particular individual feel efficient, and it can like allow him to prosper, and it can increase his economic um,
Okay. So
yeah
that's it.
economic prosperity. Yeah,
Yeah. Let's look at the definition of health. The health is a complete physical, mental, social, and well-being. Social well-being of an individual. Right? What does that mean? Physical means on your body there should not be any sickness. All your organs should function well. Okay, your eyes, your ear, every body part. Mental means what? Your mind should be sound. You should have a good mental health, right? If you have a problem with your mind, then you are not supposed to be healthy. And you should be a socializing person. Imagine, think about someone who is completely away from the society, isolated. Some people hate to socialize. They are not supposed to be a healthy people. And this the well being includes all these things physical, mental, as well as social. This is called, this is the definition of health. Okay. Someone who has all these three qualities are said to be healthy. Okay. Most of us think that people who go to gym, work out, and they have like a massive muscles and body are healthy. It's not true. Health is judged by these three definitions. Okay. So what's the advantage of having good health? Right. If you have good health, number one, if you have health, you will be more efficient in your work. You go to the office, start doing work very efficiently. Imagine not healthy. You're sick. You go to the office, sit on the table, you're not able to work properly. That reduces your efficiency and they kick you out from the office, isn't it? And it increases. If workers are efficient in companies, the productivity increases. Means what? If it's a car company, for example, imagine all their workers are healthy and active. Per day, the number of cars they produce will increase. Okay? So that's an example for productivity. When there's more productivity, the companies can get more money, more profit, and the country become more prosperous. So this is called economic prosperity. The country, the person who is worker and the factory, everyone become prosper. So these are the three indirect advantages of health. If you have health, you become more efficient at your work. That means it increases the productivity. Uh, Hope you understood what's productivity. And it increases economic condition, economic prosperity of the country. So what factors affect the health? Health is affected by many factors. Number one is genetic disorders, means genetic diseases. If you remember in the previous chapters, you studied about hemophilia. You have studied about sickle cell anemia. And these are genetic diseases. Okay. Genetic diseases, if you're born with genetic diseases, your health is affected. It's not your fault. Your genes, you inherited the genes that cause the disease.
you
Okay.
receive it at the time of birth.
Yes. And the second reason, you might get infections, infections of bacteria, infection of fungus, virus, worms, okay? Any pathogens, you might get infections. And the third one is lifestyle. Today, as people have a lot of money, They keep eating a lot of food. There's no exercise. Okay, that's lifestyle. Or poor people who live in poor countries. They don't have clean drinking water and food and the lifestyle. What about in rich countries? Problems are different that affect the health. But in poor countries, the problems are different. In rich countries, because of excess food, lack of exercise, they get heart diseases, they get diabetes and high blood pressure. But in poor countries, as they don't get drinking water, clean drinking water, they don't have enough food, they get waterborne diseases, they get every sort of infections because they don't have vaccination and weak immunity and so on. So that's lifestyle. So three factors: genetic disorders. We are people are born with genes which cause diseases, infections of bacteria and fungi, and lifestyle. Okay, three factors that affect the human health. So, how do you achieve good health? What are the ways to achieve good health? Okay, first one, balanced diet. Okay,
Your good personal hygiene.
and that's the first one, a diet which has all the nutrients in the right proportion. The second was hygiene. Hygiene means it can be personal. What's personal hygiene? We are supposed to brush ourselves, take a shower regularly, right? This is personal hygiene. And the hygiene can also be public hygiene. Okay. You should not throw the waste around, right? Dispose the waste and excrete in
Disposal
the
should be
right
proper.
places. This is called public and personal hygiene. Okay. And the next is exercise. Okay. You must perform exercise, regular exercise. It's not like you do exercise once in a week and it make you healthy. No, exercise means regular exercise. Every day, a certain amount of time, you must exercise. Next, we should have awareness about diseases and their effect on the body, right? Functions, how it affect our body. We should know that you might get, suppose you go out in a public, in today's world, if you go out in a public place, you should be aware that you might get infection of corona virus, COVID. You might get COVID. So this awareness, if you don't have the awareness, then you just go out in the public places, mix with everyone, and you get the infection easily, isn't it? Or otherwise, if you have awareness, you will be wearing a mask and try to move away from the crowd. This is known as awareness about diseases. The next way is vaccination. Vaccines give us immunity, and that prevents infectious diseases. Okay, and disposal of waste. That's public hygiene. And the next one, we should control vectors. Vectors are like mosquitoes, flies. We should control their reproduction, right? How do you stop that? You should not allow the dirty water to pool up, stagnant water. And in these stagnant water, they breed. So avoid the multiplication or reproduction of vectors and maintains hygiene of water and food sources. Food, water resources. Like most of the cities, they take water from the rivers or lakes. They should be kept clean. Okay. Even these are seven ways to achieve good health. Okay. You have to memorize these seven ways to achieve good health. Okay. So what exactly is a disease? Disease um, is due to non-functioning, okay, of your organs. When
The
functioning of
functioning of this body parts are like adversely affected, characterized by the symptoms and signs that we see, then we can say the person is diseased.
okay, When functionings of organ systems are affected, this is called the disease, right? Any functioning of your any organ. For example, suppose you have cough, means your lung is affected. There's something wrong with the lung. So we say how you have a lung disease. Maybe it's a lung infection, a throat infection, right? Uh, if any of your organs functioning is affected, this is known as a disease. And when you have a disease, for example, coughing, you keep coughing. Coughing is known as a symptom, right? So every disease show a specific sign, and these signs are known as symptoms. If you show signs, symptoms, then you have a disease. But some of the diseases may not show symptoms, but you still carry the disease. You might be a carrier of a disease without showing symptoms. All right. So this is the definition of disease. When functioning of one or more organs or organ system of the body is adversely affected. And when it is affected, it shows signs and symptoms. Then we say the person has a disease. Okay. We can classify diseases into two categories. One is called infectious disease. What's the other one? Non-infectious disease. Infectious disease and non-infectious disease. What's an infectious disease? These are diseases which are transmitted from an infected person. Okay. So let's say there is someone infected. In today's uh, context, it's easy to understand. It's easy by saying about like flu or corona, COVID. If you have someone infected with COVID, you don't go to that person. The reason it is passed on to a healthy person. Okay, that's infectious disease. Infectious diseases are transferred from, pathogen is transferred from an infected person to healthy person, uninfected person. And when an unhealthy person who doesn't have the disease get the disease, we say the disease is infectious, means it is transmitted from infected person to the other. For example, common cold, flu, chicken pox. These are infectious diseases, right? Even AIDS is infectious disease. It's a dangerous disease which can be fatal. It can kill the human beings. What's non-infectious disease? These diseases are not transmitted from the affected person. Okay, from the affected person to anyone else. I'll give an example of diabetes. What is diabetes? It's a disease in which your blood sugar become too high. Right? One of the reason, lack of insulin. If someone has diabetes and you spend time with the person, eat with the person, share food with the person, you won't get diabetes. Okay? So these are called
And another
non-infectious.
example is
Yes.
another example is cancer.
Yeah. But some cancers are infectious. Like, there are viral cancers, right? In general, cancer is non-infectious. But there are some cancers caused by virus too. So they are infectious. Okay. And these are known as non-infectious diseases. But we also might get disease from drug abuse. People who take substances, drink alcohol, okay, and drug abuse. Even in these people, you find their body functions, organs of the body start getting affected by these substances, right? So these are two main type of diseases, but you can.
Sir, one thing,
Hmm.
aren't drug addicts like victims of this AIDS?
No, it's the other way. Drug addicts can get infections of HIV.
Yeah, from the infected needle we use
Yes,
over and
yes.
over again.
Hmm. That's right. Now we're going to discuss about the common diseases and the pathogens. What's a pathogen? A disease causing organism. A disease causing organism is called pathogen. Pathogen is a disease causing organism. So it can be, pathogens can be, number one, bacteria. Pathogens can be virus, and pathogens can also be protozoans. Okay, protozoans can also be pathogen, and it is also caused by fungus. Okay, fungi can cause diseases in us, and there are worms which belongs to group helminths. So these are some of the pathogens we'll be discussing in this chapter. All right. So pathogens, every bacteria is not a pathogen. No, we have a bacteria in the yogurt, curd. That's not a
Lactobacillus.
pathogen. Mhm. That's not a pathogen. Viruses are pathogens too. But there are many viruses which do not infect humans. They don't cause diseases. Protozoans, some protozoans cause disease, some fungi, and some helminths cause disease. That's the first disease. It's called typhoid. Right? These are examples of pathogens and the diseases. It is caused by a bacteria, bacterial pathogen. So, pathogen is a bacteria. The name of the bacteria is Salmonella typhi. What is it? Salmonella typhi. You have to learn this name. Salmonella typhi is a pathogenic bacterium which causes typhoid in humans. Okay, and how does a bacteria enter your body? Through contaminated. It enters your body through contaminated food and water. Through contaminated food and water, it enters your body, right? And once, where does it go? After entering your digestive system, it migrates to the intestine. Intestine is a part,
Small intestine.
small intestine is a part which is affected by the bacteria. Okay. How do you know you have the bacteria in your body? You get sustained. Means, it doesn't go down. Sustained high fever. High fever means it can go up to 39 to 40 degrees. That's high fever. And even if you take Panadol or any medications, it doesn't come down. So that's why it's called sustained high fever. And the person feel weak, fatigue, weakness, and stomach pain. And they have constipation. What is constipation? They from the your rectum, your intestine, large intestine, the undigested food doesn't go out. Okay, they get headache and they lose the appetite. What is appetite? Appetite means the feeling of hunger.
The
No
eating.
more hunger. Okay, they don't want to eat food. They just don't feel like. All right. And in extreme cases, scientists found out that the bacteria can make holes on the intestine. This is called intestinal perforations. It damages the intestine, create holes on the intestine. This is very dangerous. If that happens, it will cause death. Okay, this happens when people don't go to hospital and take the right treatment, or when doctors fail to identify the disease. Okay, they take it for diarrhea, dysentery, or some other disease. Okay, these are the symptoms. Those are the symptoms of the typhoid: sustained high fever, weakness, pain in the stomach, constipation, headache, loss of appetite, and in severe cases, holes appear in the intestine. It's called intestinal perforations. And if that happens, it can lead to death. And can we treat the disease? Yes, it can be treated with antibiotic. Remember, all bacterial diseases can be treated using antibiotic. So this is a feces, human feces of infected person, oral through the mouth, root. We are supposed to wash our hands after going to the toilet. touching the handle of toilet door, etc. If you don't wash your hand, okay, and when you leave a toilet, don't touch the handles of the door and door knob. It's all polluted and infection. There's plenty of bacteria. These are sources of infection. Okay, and when you don't wash your hands properly, and if you drink contaminated food or water, bacteria enters your body. And this bacteria has adaptation to tolerate acid in the stomach. That's why it's not killed by the acid. Most of the bacteria are killed in the stomach by the acid. But this one is not. So it goes down to the small intestine, infect the small intestine lining, multiply there. From there, it can spread to other parts of the body. Okay? All over the body, liver, spleen, bone marrow, etc. By that time, it becomes too severe and the person can die from the disease. Those are some of the other symptoms, but you learn only the symptoms given in the reader. Okay, they might also get muscle pain, spots, raw spots on the body, vomiting, sweat, sweating, and chill, mean feeling cold, stomach pain, diarrhea, or constipation. This is a story of Typhoid Mary. Okay, long back in New York, there was a chef. She used to cook food and supply to people around in the New York City. But she was a carrier of typhoid disease. She didn't have the disease, but she had the bacteria living in the intestine. And of course, her lack of hygiene transferred the bacteria from her hands to the food she cooked. So these are like cartoons which appear in the newspaper. Okay, she's described as the most harmless and yet the most dangerous woman in Africa. You can see what she's cooking up, skulls, means the bacteria is being spread through the food she cooked. She spread it to thousands of people because she was supplying food to many people. This is called typhoid. This lady is known as
This
typhoid.
typhoid basically came from the food that she prepared. So
Yes. And her name is Mary Mallon. Okay. She was nicknamed as Typhoid Mary. That's a test for typhoid. We just have to learn the name. It's called Weidel test. So in the Weidel test, they uh, prepare a fluid which contains dead typhoid bacteria. It is dead typhoid bacteria. Don't learn this, just learn the name of the test. So if someone has typhoid, they extract blood from the patient, and from the blood, they isolate the serum. Serum means, plasma without the fibrinogen, blood clotting protein. Okay, don't worry about this part. And this serum is added to the test tubes. And each test tube has a different concentration of antigen. And they look at the color change. The color can be either red or blue, depending on species of bacteria. And if it turns red, these are the test tubes, which shows the person has the disease. Okay, it's positive. Positive means if it's like, we don't, not going to discuss what 1 over 160 means. But if it shows a little red color, intense red color, that means they are positive. But it remains, if a red color doesn't appear, that means the person doesn't have the disease. This is called Weidel test. Just learn the name, not the procedure. That's the next disease. This is called pneumonia. Again, a bacterial disease caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae. What is it? Streptococcus pneumoniae. And the second bacteria, this is called Haemophilus influenzae. Okay, these are two bacteria. Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae are responsible for the pneumonia. Okay, how do you get the pneumonia? It's through the cough. Okay, coughing.
it affects the lungs mostly.
Yes. and sneezing. When we cough and sneeze, droplets of mucus, exactly like COVID, right? Droplets of mucus, tiny droplets float in the air. When anyone breathe it in, okay, breathe in these tiny droplets, it has bacteria. It infects alveoli. What is alveoli? The part of the lung where gas exchange happens, right? So
It's
alveoli is
filled up with
of
a
the
fluid
Mhm.
which causes
once
respiratory problems.
yes, once alveoli is infected, what happens? These alveoli start getting filled with fluid. Remember, alveoli is a part of the lung where oxygen diffuses into the
Gases
blood,
exchange.
carbon dioxide comes out, gas exchange happens. Imagine it gets filled with fluid, you have difficulty in gas exchange. You don't get enough oxygen. Okay. So this disease is called pneumonia. Learn the name of the two bacteria plus which part of the body is affected and which part is affected, alveoli, and what happens in the alveoli. And there you can see these are the alveoli. Okay. There are alveoli inside. Those alveoli, see the alveoli, they are getting filled with fluid. So you have problems. To push out the fluid, the patient keeps coughing. Okay. Why do we cough? When we have any liquid in our lungs, we start coughing. And coughing is an attempt by the lungs to get rid of the fluid. But the fluid collection increases, continuous increase in the fluid, and that causes difficulty in gas exchange. And can you treat the disease? Yes, of course, you can treat the disease using uh, the antibiotics. What are the symptoms? Right? Coughing is one. The person get initially fever, then they feel cold, chills, and remember, cough is also continuous coughing and headache. These are the common symptoms, right? And if your lung is completely filled with fluid, you don't get enough oxygen. When you don't get enough oxygen, your lips, okay, lips become bluish in color. Your nails change the color because there's not enough oxygen flowing to body parts. Blue color, right? It can change from gray to bluish color. That's due to lack of oxygen supply to the body. It's dangerous, right? And so what doctors do when you in the hospital, they remove the fluid using special devices. They suck the fluid out regularly and give antibiotic and give them extra oxygen, like corona days, extra oxygen is supplied to the lungs so that they don't fall short of oxygen. Okay. We don't have to learn this disease. This disease is called plague. Learn the name. It's a bacterial disease. But I just tell you how it is caused because it might help you to remember the disease. Plague is transmitted from the rats, rodents, and there's a rat flea. It's a flea which drinks blood from the rat. So that this is one of the reasons why uh, we should not have any rats infesting our homes. We should control them. The rats are bitten by these fleas. When they bite humans, the bacteria is transferred. One from human to human, it transferred through droplet infection. Okay, so this is known as plague, and that's called diphtheria. It's again a bacterial disease. It affects your pharynx. Okay, pharynx is a part. When you open your mouth, you can see a space deep inside the mouth. That's called pharynx. And pharynx, which is closer to the nose, right? So it's called nasal pharynx. Just call it pharynx. Anyway, we don't have to memorize it. Your children, mostly it affects the children. Today it's eliminated because of vaccination. High fever, and they feel tired and sick. And they develop a white coating in the pharynx, in the back of the throat, and their neck becomes swollen. They have difficulty in breathing, and even on the body, blisters can appear, right? So this is called diphtheria. Learn only the name. It's a bacterial disease. Plague and diphtheria, we don't have to learn the symptoms, just learn the names. And that's another one, bacterial dysentery. Okay, bacterial dysentery is caused by infections of bacteria, okay, in the intestine and the stomach. All right. These are viral diseases. The first one is a common cold. Common cold is caused by a class of virus known as rhinoviruses. Okay, it's a group of viruses, and there are many different types of rhinoviruses. And the most common infection is called common cold. Right? How do we get the infection? Yes.
So can I leave the class because I have lots to do and
Yeah. Okay. And you can listen to it later. No problem.
okay, thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye. Okay. So this is called drop infection. What is droplet infection? When you cough, the drops of mucus come out, and this infect other people. So it's called droplet infection, right? And which part of the body is affected? Your nose is affected, respiratory passage is affected, but lung is not affected. Okay? Nose and respiratory passages are affected by the virus, right? And we get it through inhalation of droplet, but it can also be through contaminated objects like pens or books or cups, computer keyboard, mouse, used by infected people. That's why you should not share anything with your friends in the school. And what are the symptoms? You get nasal congestion. Your nose remains blocked. From the nose, mucus keeps coming out. So discharge from the nose. You have sore throat. Okay. So, and hoarseness in the throat, cough, headache, and tiredness. And it stays for 3 to 7 days. Okay. And if you take complete rest, you can overcome the common cold. That's the next disease. It's called malaria. Malaria is caused by protozoa, remember. It is caused by a protozoa. And the name of the protozoan is Plasmodium. What is it? Plasmodium. It's a protozoan responsible for the disease. There are different species of Plasmodium. One is called Plasmodium vivax. Another one is Plasmodium malariae and Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, these are the different species of Plasmodium. And the malignant one is Plasmodium falciparum. It's a dangerous one. And if it does infect humans, it can be fatal. So let's look at the life cycle of the malarial parasite. It all starts with biting of a mosquito. Okay, what's the name of the mosquito? Female Anopheles mosquito. When a mosquito bites you, it's trying to drink the blood. But before it drinks the blood, it injects its saliva into your body. Saliva contains anti-clotting substances, which will prevent blood clot and help mosquito to drink the blood. Along with the saliva, the sporozoids of the parasite enters the blood. Okay, that's how the infection begins. And these sporozoids go through the blood, enter your liver. In the liver, it undergoes asexual reproduction. Means they increase rapidly. They reproduce asexually. Asexual reproduction happens in the liver. Okay, sporozoid is a form of parasite you find in the liver and in the blood after a person is bitten by the mosquito. And the reproduction continues for a while. The number of sporozoids increase. And the next phase of asexual reproduction is in red blood cell. They enter the red blood cell, feed on hemoglobin, produce a toxin known as hemozoin. Okay? And plus it multiplies, increase in number, red blood cells burst, and the new parasites come out, and hemozoin also comes out. And it's a hemozoin that
Is
causes,
responsible for the fever for after every 3 or 4 days.
okay, for the chill and high fever, okay, high recurring fever, repeating fever, and that's a chemical. Learn this one, hemozoin. They can ask you like small things, tiny, uh, you know, things we ignore in most of the reader, right? So focus on that. That's called hemozoin. And what's the next phase? In the red blood cells, it also performs the sexual stage. Male and female gametocytes are formed, and these gametocytes wait below the skin, right? And when the mosquitoes drink blood, gametocytes enter the gut of the mosquito. In the gut of the mosquito, these gametocytes produce male and female gametes of the parasite. Fertilization happens and zygote is formed. They turn into sporocytes. Sporocytes migrate to the salivary gland of the mosquito. And when this mosquito bites another person, the sporozoids are transferred to his blood. So this is the life cycle of the malarial parasite. You must learn this diagram. And the next one is amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. Even this is caused by a protozoa. Okay. Name of the protozoa is Entamoeba. Okay. It's called Entamoeba histolytica. Okay. What is it? Entamoeba histolytica. And how it causes amoebiasis. How does it, amoebic dysentery? How does it enter our body? Intestine, through contaminated food and water, right? And the second way is through houseflies. Houseflies sits on the feces. They sit on the dirt, which might contain, the dirt which contains the human feces with the protozoa, and they transfer it to the food item. They act as mechanical carriers, and they transfer the parasite from feces of infected person to food and food products. In India, in many roadside eating eateries, you find food is kept open, and these flies sit on the food items. Okay, or drinking contaminated water that contain feces. This is called amoebiasis. And once a parasite is inside your body, they get into the lining of intestine and produce ulcer. Ulcer means a wound. From the ulcer, bleeding can happen. And one of the symptoms of amoebic dysentery is blood-stained feces, right? Blood comes out. So this disease is called amoebiasis, and the parasite can remain in your intestine for many years. And every year at the same time, they repeat the infection, okay, if not treated properly. Okay, that's ascariasis. It's caused by roundworm. Okay, ascariasis is caused by the roundworm. And how does it enter your body? It enters your body through infected food. How? Like, for example, you will find the eggs sticking to vegetables and fruits picked up from the soil, right? If when people pick up objects from the fruits or vegetable from the soil, and if the soil has the egg, it will stick to the fruits and vegetable, And if you use it without washing, it gets into your body. So this is called the roundworm or ascaris. What does it do? It enters your intestine. The eggs of the parasite enters your intestine. It hatches there, and once it hatches, the number of worms increase in your intestine. It feeds on the food you consume, digested food, and it causes discomfort in the stomach pain, and the person become very thin from lack of nutrition. And this is
Cause
called
anemia
Mhm.
also, right?
Yeah, it can lead to anemia. This is called ascariasis, right? The disease is called ascariasis. Name of the uh, worm is Ascaris lumbricoides. That's a life cycle, and it's spread through um, the eggs which are deposited along with the feces. It gets into the intestine, and the life cycle continues. This is called ringworm. Ringworm is called. It's not a worm. It's caused by
It's a
fungus.
fungi.
Okay, it's caused by a fungus. Name of the fungus is Microspora. Okay, and the second one, Trichophyton, and Epidermophyton. So these are the three different fungi: Microsporum, Trichophyton, and Epidermophyton. These are responsible for ringworms. It's a very common infectious disease in humans. And what is it? What are the symptoms? The skin become dry and scaly lesions appear. Scaly lesions appear on the skin, on all parts of the body, nails and scalp. These symptoms appear, and it causes itching. When you keep itching continuously, the itching is very intense, and that can cause bleeding, right? Because the skin can break, right? And if your skin is not dry, like if you keep sweating all the time, the chances of the disease spreading increases. And in places in our
Yeah, because
body,
fungi they actually grow under excess heat and moisture.
yes. And in the skin fold, wherever you have skin folds, you find uh, more growth of the fungus, like growing or between the toes. And how do you get it? We get the infections from maybe from the soil you can get, or when you use towels you can get, clothes used by infected people. Okay, so this is how the ringworm spread from one person to the other. And that's how it looks like. It's called ringworm because of the appearance of these reddish ring-like structures on the skin. Okay, lesions. Okay, that's a filarial worm. Filarial worm causes filariasis or elephantiasis, right? It's called Wuchereria bancrofti. Okay, learn the name of all the worms. And Wuchereria malay, two filarial worms. Even this is spread by a mosquito. It's called Culex mosquito. Culex mosquito, female Culex mosquito, when they bite humans, they transfer the filarial worm to your bloodstream. From the bloodstream, these worms migrate to lymphatic system. Hope you remember lymphatic system. Lymphatic system has lymph. Lymph flows very slowly, and they grow in the lymphatic system and block the flow of lymph. When the lymph flow is blocked, certain parts of the body, for example, legs, lower limbs, get swollen. So your legs look like the legs of an elephant. So that's why they call this elephantiasis. See, that's how the legs appear, right? These are people who are affected by the disease. Okay, elephant-like legs. That's why the name elephantiasis. It also can affect genital organs. And for example, the scrotal sac in male can be can get swollen by the increasing accumulation of lymph, right? And how is it transmitted? Through female Culex mosquitoes. These are the vectors of the disease. And that's the appearance of elephantiasis, the symptoms, swollen legs, right? Because and what do you find inside these swellings? The lymph. The lymph cannot flow, and it's getting collected in the lower parts of the body. And that's a life cycle. The Culex mosquito bites. The worm enters below the skin into the blood, and it moves into lymphatic system. They grow in length, remain coiled up in the lymphatic system, and they reproduce in the lymphatic system. And the larvae is formed. These larvae are taken back by the Culex mosquito, female Culex mosquito. When they bite the person, they take the larvae and spread it to other people. So there are two hosts here. One is human, and second one is the female Culex mosquito. So how do you prevent and control diseases, right? Number one is hygiene. Hygiene can be personal hygiene and the public hygiene. What's personal hygiene? Keeping the body clean and drink clean water and eat clean food, clean the vegetable fruits before you consume it. And that's personal hygiene. It is also public hygiene. And how do you maintain public hygiene? To maintain public hygiene, the waste from the home should be disposed properly. Excreta should be deposited in the right place. Clean and disinfect water resources and swimming pools, cesspools, tanks, okay, and in public catering places, hotels and these places, they should maintain standard practices, okay, and such practices will prevent diseases like typhoid, amoebiasis, and ascariasis because they spread through food and water, okay. And there are airborne diseases. And how do you prevent that? Isolate the infected people, like people who get pneumonia or common flu. They should stay in a room without much contact with other members of the family or the public. Okay. And don't share anything used by those people. Okay. If a disease is caused by vectors, right? Like malaria, filariasis, elephantiasis, or elephantiasis. These are transmitted through insects. So how do you stop these diseases from transmitting? Control the mosquitoes, because mosquitoes cause these diseases. To control the mosquito, you have to use mosquito nets. When you can sleep inside the mosquito net, fix mosquito nets on the doors and the window, and don't allow water to stagnate. In stagnant water, the mosquitoes breed. And if you have stagnant pools of water, you can introduce a fish known as gambusia. And it feeds on the larvae of the fish. Okay, and spray insecticide to kill them.
And also
Right?
regular cleaning of this
Yeah,
cooler.
regular cleaning. Yeah. In India, we have coolers, water coolers. Inside the water cooler, they breed. And there are diseases like dengue and chikungunya, which is caused by another vector, Aedes mosquito. So to control them, you have to do these things, right? Control the mosquito population, you can control the disease. The next way is to use vaccines. Vaccines give us immunity from many diseases like chickenpox, smallpox, right? Smallpox is a deadly disease. Polio, diphtheria, pneumonia, and tetanus. They all are controlled by vaccines. And the fifth one, use of antibiotics. What antibiotics do? Antibiotics kill the bacteria. So it's effectively used for many bacterial infections. Okay. So these are the methods to prevent and control diseases.